think there is.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
No.
We
Yeah.
can't hear you.
It's
Somehow
time, right? Yes.
Yes,
It's
it
time,
is
right?
indeed.
And everyone's here now, right? Okay, so we don't have very much time, and I'm gonna try to keep it short, which is really very difficult for me. Um, so, if I haven't had a chance personally to say this to anybody, I want to welcome everyone to our guild, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen in Legion. There's a lot I need to cover. The first is that I do want to say, even though we started as a pug, we're not going to be a pug anymore. And this means that a lot of things are going to change. So if you're in here, if you joined as a pug way before, you might have to change a lot about how you think about things. The first is, since we are a guild right now, I believe that any time you are outside, as long as you have the guild tag on you, you would be representing this guild. So I'm going to be asking everyone to be very respectful of people at all times. Obviously in guild, but outside as well, no matter who you come across, especially later as we progress faster and faster, as we become a stronger and stronger guild and aim for US top and then world top and things like that. I would still like us to always be nice to any kind of casual or noob that is out there. And this is something that I think I've said to everyone individually, but I want to emphasize again as a group. If I do find that there are people who aren't respectful of others in an unprovoked manner or something, that's going to be like, it's a baseline thing for me. It's not something that I can accept. And so other than this, to be able to facilitate this being a guild, I'm going to have some officers. And so far, since we've started, there have been a few people who have helped out an extra large amount and have shown that they're interested in doing really what's going to be a very thankless job. The job of an officer is less going to be directly about raid stuff. It's more going to be about if you're willing to help out with all of the other what I personally find as very, very thankless and boring jobs around the guild, including the guild bank, managing the guild bank, coordinating, like, say, professions and stuff between people, as well as managing sales, attendance, website, Discord, all of this sort of thing. So far, there are 2 people who have been helping, especially. Actually, there were 3. And I was going to have all 3 of these be officers. One of these people, LeBlanc, was going to be an officer, but she can't really join very much right now due to real life things. So right now we have 2 officers, and if other people are interested in helping out more in things that are related to this, you can always come and talk to me, and then if you're willing to share this burden with the other 2 people who are going to be officers. So the 2 officers are going to be Amber and Jackal. So I'm going to make them officers, and they are going to help take care of a lot of things, and they've already been doing this. So yeah, so I wanted everyone to know that. For this guild, there are going to be a lot of things that I'm going to expect of people, and I'm going to kind of list that out so people know what it is that I will be expecting of them. And if this is something that you feel you can't do or you don't want to do, then at any time you can come and talk to me about it. And if it's something that we're not going to be able to work out, you can always leave. And I hope if anybody leaves ever, it will always be on friendly terms. The times for Legion raiding are going to be Monday through Thursday. For the first 3 weeks, it's going to be Monday through Thursday from 5:30 PST to 9:30 PST. So that will be 4 hours a day for 4 days for the first 3 weeks while we do splits. This is probably not actually going to apply to everyone. If there are people who aren't going to join in on both the splits, this means that for the first 3 weeks, instead of doing 16 hours a week, you would be doing 8 hours a week. Most likely we'll split it into, well, we will be splitting into 2 days and then 2 other days. And then after that, after the splits are over, we're going to either drop an hour each day, or else we will drop 1 day so that we become a 12-hour-a-week guild. Which we drop will depend on basically everybody's schedule as well as how everyone feels. If we feel that we operate well on a 4 hour a day schedule, then maybe we'll drop a day. If we feel that by the time we're doing the fourth hour, everyone's just too tired, then we'll drop to 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. So those are the times. And then as for attendance expectations, I am expecting something like 95% to 100% attendance while we are progressing. I understand that there are going to be real life issues, but uh, I'm expecting that this will be very, very, very rare, and that if anything comes up, that you tell us way ahead of time, like as soon as you know, preferably like if you know like a month or two ahead of time, then tell us a month or two ahead of time. There are two ways that you can tell us, either on the forums. Well, please tell us via both ways. One is on the forums. There's an attendance section. Please post which days you won't be able to make it in that section. And then also there's an attendance channel on Discord. As the time gets closer, please post again on the Discord channel to remind us of it. Okay, and then other than that, I have performance expectations, which are actually going to be a bigger issue, and I would like everyone to be fully aware of all of these things. The first thing is sort of a gear expectation, because we're starting off a new expansion. To be able to not be behind anyone on gear, this means that you're probably going to have to level really early. I personally have already kind of expected, if I can get into Sargeras early enough, to spend almost like 20 hours out of the first 24 hours if I want to level both tunes the first day and get them ready. I don't know how viable that will be on Sargeras,
Probably not.
but that is at least something that I am ready for. Even if you can't finish leveling 2 tunes the first day, which I'm assuming it's still very likely most people can't, I would say probably you don't want to wait later than 2 or 3 days. Otherwise, you're just going to be 2 or 3 days behind on artifact power, which means 2 or 3 days behind on artifact traits. You're just going to be less competitive when we start. So there are a lot of people who haven't done split raids at the beginning of an expansion. This does really require a lot of effort and time and grinding at the start to make sure that your gear is ready, to make sure that you stay competitive. The second thing that I'm expecting as far as performance goes is everyone's understanding of their class. As a pug, it was enough to kind of understand your class enough so that you can just perform well. But for this guild that I'm building, what I want is far beyond that. I would like everybody to be so good at their class that essentially anyone could be almost a theory crafter of their own class, could at the very least provide a guide to anybody who asks. So, I mean, even like everyone would know basically how to play their basic rotation. But things like in this situation, when there are this many tunes, when this kind of thing procs, do you press this or do you press that? Should you be moving at this time or should you be moving at that time? How do you pre-position? When do you swap targets? When do you leave off a specific target? When do you need to prioritize staying on that particular target at all times? All little things like this are things that I expect anyone to know, so that if anybody ever, when people apply or when people come to me and say, I don't really understand how to play a hunter that well, I could direct this person to any of our hunters and they would basically be able to make this person a pro if necessary. So this is kind of what I'm also expecting out of everybody for their class, for their understanding of class. The next thing is the understanding of the fights. As a very, very, very basic, I expect that by the time raids open on September 20th, that everybody who goes in fully understands all the mechanics of every single boss. As a pug, I would always explain what the mechanics were. I think not very many people joined me that early when I was leading pugs. But the people who do, they know I could spend 20 minutes explaining each fight to make sure that everybody knew, and I found then that it was very, very useful it was worth spending all this time to make sure that everybody knew every mechanic. Well, I don't plan on spending this time anymore in Legion, but I still expect everyone to know all the mechanics. It really makes a huge difference. So this is something that it's not probably going to be enough for you to watch like a Fat Boss video one time. Oh. um, it's not going to be enough to be able to just do that. You're probably going to have, if you're the type of person who's a note taker, you're probably going to have to spend time taking notes. If you're the type of person who understands by like reading through and then envisioning it, like 50 times in your head, like I do, then you're going to have to do it that way. One way or another, you're going to have to put in the time, the effort that is required for for you individually to be able to fully understand the mechanics and then have a basic understanding of the strategies that we will be implementing. You'll know the strategies that we'll be implementing because we will either be discussing this on Discord or on the forums. These are the basic performance expectations that I expect from everyone, the gear, the class understanding, fight understanding. And so we do have way more than 20. So this would be a good time to mention that who ultimately is going to be on the roster will depend on, by the time splits are happening, basically everybody's how everybody shows they are as far as these performance these performance points. So if you don't understand your class as well, or your gear isn't as good, or you don't understand the fight as well, I will simply believe that you are not competitive enough to be able to be part of the core group at the time that we start truly progressing through Mythics. In which case, I would probably ask you to join the second group when I make that. The purpose of the second group, though, obviously, partially it's to give more people the chance to see content, but I'm really not interested in just helping out anybody who's not working very hard just for them to be able to see content. So a big purpose of the second group is for people who weren't ready by the time the first group got ready to be able to get ready by the time the second group happens and show me then that they actually are suitable to be in the first group either immediately or for the next tier. Or to show me that not only are they suitable, but they're actually better than whoever's in the first group. So, yeah, that's the general idea about what I'm going to be expecting from people as far as performance goes and how that's going to affect each person in this guild. I feel that with this, I've been looking for people who want this kind of thing, but at the same time, it is something that, in a sense, I am imposing on everyone, that I am expecting out of everyone. And I do not expect to do this and then just sit back and only ask the same amount of myself. I feel that that is not the job of a leader, and I don't feel that... so basically, I feel that in return for everybody doing all of this that I ask of you, there are some things that I do promise to be able to do in return. One of the things is because I will ask everyone to be very respectful, I said, of others, but also of people in our guild. I really hate toxicity. So I really want everybody to try their best to be considerate of others and respectful of others. And in return for this, I'm going to, because I know that there might be people who might be frustrated if we have situations where people are underperforming, or underperforming as far as they think that person is capable of. So in return for this, what I promise is that I will always prioritize players who perform the best. I mean, obviously assuming that these players aren't bringing any toxicity in our raid. But otherwise, I will always prioritize people who perform best and who improve the most and work the hardest. And to facilitate this, in case there's a situation where, like, I really am bringing all the best people in, but there are going to still be 2 or 3 people who really could be performing better but really aren't, a way to be able to constantly allow us to move ahead and to do better. This means that I will always be finding more players to be able to fill our ranks, so that if for a specific like amount of time, for a couple weeks, we have like one or two players that aren't performing up to par and there's no one in the guild that I can use to replace these players, then that's not something that I'm going to allow to just continue. I will still constantly when I can. I will still constantly be leading pugs, looking for people, and being open to anybody who fits sort of the expectations and the philosophy of our guild. That's one of the things that I promise. And the other thing that I promise is that I won't ever slack on trying to find a better strategy. I'll try my best never to let very good players who come and try to perform really well get bored. I will always try to look for ways to make raid interesting for you. Especially like in situations once we get past progression, but we still need to farm because I don't know, more people need mounts or just to not get to a point where like things start falling apart, people start losing interest and stuff like that. So this is something that I will always try to do as well. And then one more thing, and this is kind of my philosophy as what a leader is. I will always, always prioritize my team members above myself personally on an individual level. So like something like the mount, that is something that I will never take until everyone else has it. Any situation like this, I'm not going to like say always give loot to everybody else and not give any loot to myself, because I think that that would be harmful to the group if I'm not geared enough to be competitive. But I will always be my own last priority. So yeah, that's sort of the whole basic philosophy of the guild, all my expectations. I guess I do want to mention that I would like everybody to always ask more of themselves than of others. It's very easy to see problems, mistakes that others make, and it's very easy to try to ignore your own mistakes because it feels bad to admit that to yourself or to anyone else that you made mistakes. But I think that this is, if a lot of us are like this, then that road leads to toxicity and unhappiness. So I would really prefer that everybody always ask more of yourself than of others. And again, obviously, if in doing that, there are certain people who are simply not asking enough of themselves, I would like everyone to trust me that I will always, always work to either make that person improve enough to stay competitive with us, or else look for other people who will be able to take that person's place. Um, And so, yeah, other than this, there are a few other things that I want to mention. One is about communication. I would like everybody to try their best to communicate as much as possible in a way that is helpful to us all. Since we're just a new guild, um, this is going to be really, I would say, necessary for us to be able to really bond together and become a guild where we can trust each other, both on a personal level and on a rating level. So please, if you have any problems at all, please talk to myself or to an officer, or yeah, or you can write things on forums or use Discord. I'm going to have people, if we're writing a lot on Discord, but a lot of this stuff is stuff that we actually should be looking back on and like referencing in the future, I'm going to be having people translate that from Discord to the forums. Amber did something similar already, and so we're going to have people do that. And if anybody's willing to do that, please let me know. And yes, and another thing that we're going to talk about a bit is guild bank stuff. I'm going to be opening up repairs. I feel that we have enough money so that we can help people with repairs during progression in Legion, but I'm not going to let it go so far as to have all of us like just become broke. My current idea is I'll probably open 500 gold a day for everybody who is a raider, since you'll be using this for repairs for both the raids and for gearing up. But if there are problems later, if we find that we cannot sustain this, then I will probably either lower it or just do what we can to sustain enough, to have enough money in the guild bank that we're not broke. If I find that this is taking less money than I expected and that we can open up more guild repairs, then I will be doing that. As for consumables, my idea with consumables right now, and this again revolves around the fact that we are a new guild, I would like everybody to do their best to chip in. One of the officers will basically be in charge of um, coordinating this and making sure that the guild bank is stocked, but officers, in order to do this, might be asking people to donate mats or asking people who are, say, alchemists or whatever to take certain mats and make flasks and pots to put in so that our guild bank can be stocked. It will be really, really helpful to us if everybody can help participate in this. Since we are so new and we are so relatively poor for the type of guild that we are looking to be, that it's going to be very difficult to just rely on the money that we have or a couple people to do things. So to be able to do this, another thing that you'll need to be able to do this is to tell our officers what professions you guys will have so that they can coordinate this. Okay, and then other than this, there are some people who haven't transferred yet. I'm not going to say that you have to transfer right now. My idea about this is that I understand there might be some people who, I mean, there are even some people who are considering transferring off Sargeras just to get the first leveling out of the way. The idea is that at the very, very latest, I want everyone to transfer by the end of the first week of Legion. Preferably transfer as soon as you're done leveling so that you can join us in guild for mythic dungeons and for dungeons and stuff like that. And so that you can participate more in guild chat and get to know everyone better. Yes. So that is the last thing that I want to say. We are a new guild. We are, in a sense, an underdog. Nobody is going to expect us to do well. I'm not going to say, oh, we are going to make at least whatever rank. I don't think that's the right way to focus our minds. I'm going to say we're going to do the best we can, and we're never going to get worse. We're always going to get better. With what we have, I have a certain amount of confidence that we can do much better than anybody can expect of us. But it's just something that this is always going to be our goal. We're always going to do better. We're always going to improve.
Can I just add something on? A while ago, Syzygy was talking about researching boss fights and all that kind of stuff. Over the past few days, Xenot and I have been creating Google Docs that have summaries of all the boss's abilities, as well as categorizing them into ones everyone needs to know and specific roles. It's a basic layout of the boss fight mechanics, not our strategy to combat them. However, we've gotten some feedback from a few people, and these guides are proving to be quite helpful for them to understand the boss fight. So make sure that when you do eventually get around to researching the Emerald Nightmare bosses, that as well as watching the video, you also look at these documents. They are on both the on Discord. There are categories at the top of Discord for each boss. Ursoc, Nathendra, Illigoth, blah 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 blah. And there is also a link to them on the forums, which also have a link to the boss videos or whatever videos they are.
Yes, and this is the kind of thing that is why I say, even though we are in a sense an underdog and no one expects us to do well, if we have everybody work like Zan and Asterix did to help us all, this is the reason why we will be able to do really well. So please, everyone, do as much as you can to help us with this. And yeah, that's it. Does anyone have any questions? Feels that